Let's grow together, family. You do not want to miss this one. We sit down with our brother Larry, who's from North Carolina. He's currently a financial coach, and he's paid off $60,000 in debt in a little under 20 months. Along with that, he's also helped others pay off six figures in debt. So if you got some debt that you need to take care of, or you just want to learn how to manage your money better, this is the conversation for you. Tap in with us, you won't regret it. Let's get to it.
I never grew up with educators that looked like myself. I always knew that wisdom was a powerful tool, but I also know that oftentimes we neglect it because of who it comes from.
Facts.
It's not necessarily just about being a king, it's more so about becoming a kingmaker.
Man, you got to be close enough to relate, but far enough ahead to inspire. What's going on today, Marcus? How you feeling?
What's up with you, man? All is well. Back at it, ready for for school to kick off and all the other good stuff that come with it. What about yourself, man?
Yeah, man. With the school getting back in season, it's all more kids around because I work with young people. It's always an exciting time. But man, what I'm also excited about is this conversation that we're about to have today. And before we introduce the guests, I want to introduce our quote for the day. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And this is from John C. Maxwell. So, Marcus, what's on your mind?
Very proactive opposed to reactive, being that much more intentional. Set kind of the guardrails, right? Putting something in play to ensure that you're manifesting the vision, the dreams you have long term versus being very reactive or on the fly, man. Well, what about yourself?
Now, I agree 100%. It's definitely a proactive approach. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, I'm deciding what I'm going to do with my money versus at the end of the month looking back like, dang, what did I spend all of that on? I really think this is a really good quote, especially for the season that I'm in my life. So,
100%. Listen to a podcast. It was recently talking about how grocery stores are set up to create a lot of impulse buying, right? A lot of
facts.
the milk, the dairy things are in the back. So this is beyond relevant, man. I think a lot of people are very much impulse buyers. So being able to have a mechanism in play. But again, this is perfect for the brother we have here today. Would love to get your take on this quote as well, man. Mr. Cummings, can you hop on for us and tell us a little bit about what this?
Hey, hey, I'm doing good. How y'all?
Man, bless, brother, bless.
Yes,
Appreciate you coming
sir.
through.
Blessed by the best. So the quote, so just a budget really gives, as I said, gives your money an identity. A lot of times we don't really understand what money is and the value of money or the necessity for money. And so when I heard someone once said, when the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. And
Mm,
consequently, we abuse money because we don't understand the purpose of money. And so, finding the purpose, what's the purpose, and then you have to put a plan behind that purpose and use money as a tool, as a strategy to achieve your purpose or the purpose for which you have money. So, really understanding a budget is really that foundational strategy to utilizing money to find purpose, to build and create a plan around fulfilling that purpose for your money.
yeah.
That's spot on, man. I heard you talk about a plan. I heard you talk a little about the budget element. But as we dive into it, man, you have a phenomenal testimony that really inspired me, and I think we can all learn from. So I would love for you to tell the audience a little bit more about how you and your wife were able to knock out 60K worth of debt in just 20 months. Can you share some gems there?
Absolutely. So my wife and I got married back in 2018, and so coming from a single man to a married man is completely different. Some things I had to move differently. I couldn't continue to do what I was doing. I couldn't continue to spend the money just however I wanted to, eating out every day, just doing all type of foolishness. And so, consequently, my wife and I we went on our honeymoon, and we had the biggest argument we've ever had. And consequently that argument was about money because at the time I had credit card debt that I didn't let her know about. So I'm taking her on trips. We going to Mexico. We eating out, going to the golf course to eat lunch and doing all type of stuff. She didn't know I'm swiping
Yeah.
this credit card to be able to afford this lifestyle. So I'm trying to, trying to look good, trying to feel good. Like, okay, I got it. But when you get married, it's like, okay, now that responsibility, that heaviness hit me. And then we had a honeymoon baby. And so now in our first few months of marriage, we're kind of going at it. She's very, stressed out, going through the first trimester, throwing up and just all type of stuff. And so really as a man, it kind of hit me heavy. Like, brother, this is your responsibility now. Like now I got 2 mouths to feed. Well, now you got 3 mouths to feed when it was just you. So I'm like, man, I got all this debt, all this stuff, these people that I owe. I'm ducking and dodging, not answering calls, trying to avoid certain numbers and doing all. And I just didn't feel like I was really fulfilling my rightful role as a man, as a husband, and future father. And so, really, I just made a bold decision. I said, I'm just going to go countercultural and make the decision like we got to get out of debt. So at the time, we had about $60,000, a little over $60,000 of consumer debt. So we had credit cards, car loan, student loans, furniture loan, owed on parking tickets that we had. So just all type of stuff. And so I was really heavy, but we weren't making a lot of money. So we had over $60,000 worth of debt. And I think at the time we were combined, maybe making around $65,000 annually combined.
Mm.
And so, but I made the decision, and she kind of fought me on it originally. But we made a decision to kind of pay off or pursue the plan. Talking about that plan because I really feel like God had given me a purpose, and He told me that my purpose for your life is not to be succumb to debt, is not to be in bondage and bound by the weight of debt because debt is really heavy.
Yeah.
And so understanding that, I'm like, man, I got to do something different. So we began to sell all type of stuff. We got ourselves on a strict budget and a plan, and we start paying off the smallest debt first. So we paid off the furniture loan. We paid that off, and so we were able to take that monthly payment and put it on to the next debt. Everything else we were paying the minimum monthly payment. And so, but everything extra we started to do, and consequently, we started to live off of my income. And so all of our expenses, living expenses, was my income, and her income. We put everything towards our debt. And so we started knocking out credit cards. We started knocking out the car loan. Then we started knocking out our student loans. And our goal originally was 24 months to be debt free, but we did it in 20 months, through God's grace and His glory. So,
Yeah.
man, it was just life changing. We learned a lot along the way, but it was certainly a journey.
Yeah, man, Larry, appreciate you sharing that. I actually have two questions to get
Most
started.
stuff.
The first question is, who had majority of the debt? That's my first question. And then the second
Me.
question is, how did and that kind of helps. My second question is, how did you get your wife to buy into that, right? Especially if the lion's share of the debt was yours. How do you convince your partner to like, hey, I had this debt, let's use your income as well to kind of help us get to where we're trying to go?
So, like I said, it really countercultural. So, I'm gonna make a controversial statement that should not be controversial,
Hmm.
but it is. And consequently, what we did or how I got her really to be on board, uh, at that time, we made a decision that everything is in one pot. So, all our finances were combined. So we didn't have separate bank accounts. She didn't have an account. I didn't have a separate bank account. Or if I did, her name was on it. So we had access to everything. So our paychecks all came to one account. So it was no hiding. It was no, we're going to pay bills with this account, but I got my personal over here to do whatever. We made the decision when we first got married, this is what we're going to do because I believe, we can do better together than we can separate. And so really made that decision to put it all in one pot. And so there was no hiding.
Yeah.
And so I did. There was no room to say, well, I'm gonna pay this, but I'm gonna still have this on the side, or she's not putting a little on the side for her. It was all up front. It's amazing to me how married couples you can share the same bed, but you can't share the same bank account.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, come on, right? We can share we could share intimacy, but we can't share our finances.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
come on. You know what I mean? So you have to be, again, the Bible says to leave and cleave, the two become one. And
Yeah.
so I truly believe we had to become one in all areas of life. It wasn't just one in this area, but we still separate in this area. So really seeing she was able to see what we were spending, I was spending my money on, because my money was her money. Her money was my money. It was our money.
Yeah.
And so really when she started to see that, and we were just open and honest and transparent. There was no hiding. There was no secret. There was no hidden agenda. When she saw, I'm putting all my extra towards paying this off, okay, I can trust him.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's that, especially in marriage, if you don't have trust, it's hard to build a
Yes.
foundation
Oh yeah.
of build momentum without trust.
Yeah.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
having that openness, we were able to build trust. And she, honestly, she fought me about the first 6 months.
Yeah.
We were arguing, we were fighting, because I had a God, said moment, but she didn't get that. God didn't tell her this vision, this
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That wasn't her purpose. Her purpose wasn't to be debt free.
Yeah.
That's a vision that God gave me. But thank God I married a wonderful wife who was able to trust me and follow the God in me.
Yeah.
And not necessarily because I'm not doing it for me. I'm not paying off my debt. I'm paying off our debt.
Yeah.
Yes, the majority is mine, but again, we are one. And so if you succeed, I succeed. If I succeed, you succeed. So we really had to have those monthly talks, weekly discussions,
Yeah.
like. And once you start seeing it, happen and come into place and things being paid off, it was about when we got the car paid off, she was all on board.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Just took a little bit of time, but
It took some
to your
time.
to your point, I think these transparent conversations are beyond vital in relationships, and oftentimes we don't have them until we're deep into a relationship, right? I know you mentioned it wasn't something you all talked about on the front end when you all were just boyfriend girlfriend. It took to getting married, right? So reflecting, I know you work with a lot of youth, working to empower them as well with your background. So I'm curious to know what advice would you have for younger couples that are aspired to eventually be married, but how can they be proactive in having some of these conversations on the front end?
That's excellent. I think I believe everybody needs a coach in their corner, right? Everybody needs a coach, a mentor, someone who can guide, someone who can speak truth, someone who can inspire. And really, many of us go through life, especially in our adulthood, without great coaching. We may go see a therapist, or once you may go talk to your friends or your peers, but you need someone who's been where you are and can speak life to your situation. And I believe most people, especially young couples, find a seasoned married couple who can coach you, who can sit down and you go to coffee, go to lunch with, and ask them, kind of pick their brains and ask them what worked for them. I would do it for multiple couples. That was something that I was intentional in doing, because I don't know everything. And if I'm trying to get to a specific destination, to a specific place, I was thinking about. So my wife is from Miami, Florida, right? I'm from North Carolina. If I'm trying to, or if you, Marcus, let's say you're trying to get to Miami, Florida, which one of us would you ask? You would ask my wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because she's from there. I may be able to tell you, but I can't really tell you how to get there, because that's not where I've been or somewhere that I know very well. So if I'm trying to get out of debt, if I'm trying to have a wonderful marriage, if I'm trying to build and have a marriage that lasts 30 years, have raised wonderful kids to be loving God and faithful and educated, I'm not taking advice from people who are not where I desire to be, or who have
Mm-hmm.
not been where I desire to go. And I think most times young people, They listen to people who are not where they desire to be. And you find yourself following after people who are where you already are. And so,
Hmm.
how do you know where you're going? How do you know the direction? So, I would say get a mentor, get couples, get people in your corner, wise counsel in your corner who can really speak truth to you and give you direction and just really inspire you and say, hey, maybe try this or think about this or, what is it that you really want to achieve as a couple? And I think you can head in the right direction when you do that.
Cool. I love that. I love that, Larry. Everything you said, because Marcus and myself, well, Marcus, he has Roots Mentoring. I'm a part of a Greater Good Foundation, and we are youth mentors. So we're constantly telling the young people, like, hey, you should be focused on people who have done what you're trying to do. Period. Like I literally was telling a young person that today, and I'm like, you listening to somebody that doesn't have the results you want is gonna have you getting results that you don't want. Period. But I have a question though, because especially we're talking about finances with these couples. What if they? Because I'm assuming you're talking about maybe a friend that they know that has a successful marriage and they've been together. Because a lot of times maybe you have somebody in mind, but people aren't trying to do that for free, right? So until we can find that mentor and maybe pay them because our finances are tight, what would you say is like one practical exercise that a couple can do that can kind of enable them to, one, feel more confident asking someone for help if they don't have the money, and two, something that can kind of get them started on this process if a mentor isn't available?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I would imagine there's a theory called the proximity principle, um,
Yes.
and being able to find yourself in proximity to people that you want to, or really, it's talking about maybe even getting a job. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if I want to work as an electrician, then I need to start being in places electricians are. Right.
Facts.
If I want to be a doctor, I need to maybe hang out in spaces where doctors are. So I think we all have access to resources. Sometimes we're too either shy to do that. So again, you have to gain that confidence, that boldness to be able to put yourself in spaces, to be able to talk randomly to people, to ask questions. There's resources even online that you can find, Facebook groups
Yeah.
to do that. Church is a great place, especially if you're going to a specific church. And it may not be somebody who has all the answers, but at least somebody who can inspire you.
Yeah.
Even YouTube. I mean, YouTube, you can learn everything from YouTube University.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do that, but I think a lot of times we don't shift our mind. Romans 12 and 2, transform, don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This world system has a pattern, a way of doing things, and what is common for us that we have a pattern or habits, daily systems that we operate under, and we get those same results if we don't renew our mind. So if you
Yep.
want to do something differently, you have to start thinking differently. So put yourself in places. So if I would, what I started doing, I started switching up my routine. So I stopped listening to certain music and started listening to podcasts
Yeah.
that was developing me, something that I'm developing, and not trying to just relax or accommodate or fill the space. I started reading more. Every day I try to read something because again I'm trying to develop my mind. I'm trying to renew my mind because there's so many negative things that are consuming my mind, so many negative habits to where I have to break free. And so began reading. I began watching YouTube videos on different topics. I began to listening to podcasts and not just music. And then I started putting myself in places where people are where I desire to be. So maybe I can spend a little to go to this restaurant, and maybe hang out instead of going to some regular restaurant that I go to. Okay, maybe let's save up a little bit and let's go to a different space and let's be intentional about networking. And so if I see somebody, I may ask a couple, hey, how you doing? I'm strike up a conversation, doing certain things, but We kind of have to put ourselves out there and be bold enough to change our minds, and consequently, our behaviors will change.
Mm. I definitely resonated with that. I know for myself, growing up, I saw a lot of people in debt around me on a consistent basis, and oftentimes I think people have the mentality like debt uh, is
It's
a
normal.
generation. Yeah, but it's like a generational curse, right? Where like, hey, they had it. This it's almost accustomed to an extent. And for myself, I knew I never wanted it, but I was so fearful that I never had a credit card. I only paid cash for a lot of things. But in talking with my bankers and buying the house, they're like, whatever you're doing is working. But it didn't take me to until I started working at ADP, which was in my mind choosing a wise career path, which was going to align me with learning these different nuances. Where I actually sat down with some of my bankers and they really educated me, and that was the first time I kind of had an aha moment. Like credit isn't horrible if you use it the right way,
Yeah.
but
Right.
nobody around me was, so it didn't click. But to your point, being in a different environment where one you can ask these questions and not feel naive, right? Because I knew I was the most naive person in the room, but I was intentional with getting in that room because I know these individuals were experts to that extent. So now that's spot on. I love to hear that, man. Now I know you do a phenomenal job of bundling when it comes to marriage, money, and the mindset, right, associated with manhood. So I'm curious to know how are all these elements interconnected within your experience and your coaching of different gentlemen as well.
Man, honestly, brothers or coaching men is really, that's a passion project for me. I love working with men, with brothers, because I believe if you can win a man, you can win a family. And
Yes.
it's a misnomer that, black households are absentee fathers. I see so many active, I like to call them active, deliberate,
Yeah.
and dedicated fathers. I see so many, black men who add to their families, who are supportive of their wives, of their children. And for me, that's the type of man that I desire to coach, to be around, to become. And so I love coaching young men. Some of my the best clients are brothers, young men who desire more, who desire to learn. And so many black men are in that position, but we don't often get celebrated for learning.
Yeah.
We get celebrated for the negative, for the bad habits. We don't get celebrated for what we're at. Being a man is the most difficult job on the earth, I believe, because we're in a position to where we have to not only protect but provide and be the priest of our homes.
Yep.
We're always on the front line. We have no space to hide. So I tell my wife, we can get in trouble. Yeah, we can wander in trouble, but I can't call on you. I can't say, Mish, how we gonna get out? You
Yep.
looking at
Yep.
me. If
Yep.
we in trouble, the first thing you doing, Larry, what? I can't run to you scared. Like I have to figure out a plan. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? As a man. So for me, I love coaching men who desire to be better,
Yeah.
because I believe men have innately an experience that is of leadership. Every man is innately a leader. I
Yeah.
truly believe that. Some of us have cultivated that leadership, and others of us need really that coaching to develop those leadership tendencies to be able to lead well our families, our wives, our purpose, our work, to find dignity in the things that we do. But for me, men is my passion area, because that's obviously my focus. That's what I know best, and that's what I see has the greatest impact on our community.
That's so real. Miss Hunter, one of my mentors, she would say all the time. She has a nonprofit. It's called Men's Valuable Purpose, and
Mm.
ironically, she was a woman trying to help build men. She brought me on board a little bit to kind of assist with that because she kind of understood the dynamic of that. But she would always say, if we can get the men in order, the women will follow. Like if we can get the
Mhm.
Absolutely.
men where they want to be, like the others will follow. And so I love that you said that. So you not only have you paid off six figures of debt, you've also helped others do that as well. I'm interested in knowing like what's the difference between the people that are able to do it and then the people that don't.
Whether you, what book was that? I just read a book. Uh, I forgot which book, but it really said or really alluded to uh, success and failure both start with a thought,
Yeah,
right? Whether you're rich or whether you're poor, it can start with a thought, a mindset. And so I believe, consequently, many of us, the reason why certain people make it and certain people don't, we obviously know there's many environmental factors at play that hold us back. But I believe that a person with a strong mind and determination can achieve many things. They said, I was reading an African proverb that once said, in the confrontation between a river and a rock, the river always wins. Always wins. Not because the river is stronger than the rock, not because the river is taller or wiser than the rock, but the river always wins because of persistence. The
Mm-hmm.
river won't stop. The rock can't stop the river. The river is going to find a way around. It's going to find a way under. It's going to find a way
that's
over.
real.
But it's always going to find its way through the rock. And so for us, there's going to be stumbling blocks. But sometimes what happens, we aren't rivers to where we run into a rock or an obstacle and we stop. Think about how many things we've stopped on. We've stopped on our diets. Some of us have stopped our marriages, our relationships. Some of us have stopped and even given up on God because of obstacles, of challenges. But the people who are most successful are those people who don't stop at the rock,
That's
who
real.
find a way to persevere, who find a way to continue. And so for me, that was something I had to have perseverance. There's no way you can become debt free or pay off a large sum of debt without persevering. Because yes, we had obstacles. Yes, we had different things along the
Mm-hmm.
way that we had to pay. My wife and I were both in our graduate programs at Florida State. We were
Mm,
both in grad school with a 1 year old baby, my baby girl. And so we're in school at the exact same time paying off debt. And school ain't free
yeah,
or cheap. But we were able to fund our schooling. We were able to get scholarships and grants and do finding a way. Like this is the goal, so we got to find a way to make it happen. And I believe God just began to open doors and bless us because we were faithful and persevered past the obstacles. So if you want to win, you got to find a way around the rock. I really believe that.
He's
you,
on
you talk.
fire!
had to
I was
throw
about to
that
say
in
you
there.
you talking in James language. So if
You
you start talking
already
about some
know it.
quotes, some metaphors, I know
So
you got them
what's
going.
what's what's funny, Marcus? I think
Yes,
he
sir.
could correct me if I'm wrong. I think the quote you were gonna say is something like, "Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right."
You're right. Yeah.
I could
Was
tell.
that
I
Henry
could.
Ford?
Henry Ford. Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
exactly what he was getting at. I'm like, he talking about talk. Yeah, yeah.
Nah,
Absolutely.
that,
Absolutely.
that's spot on. But to your point, I have a tat that is ambition, wisdom, and endurance. I believe it takes those specific elements to be successful. Yes, you have to have ambition to put the nail to the hammer to begin with, or the hammer to the nail. But you also have to have the wisdom to know the proper process, when to pivot, when to make adjustments, and then endurance to continue to fight the good fight. But in my entrepreneurship class, we're talking a lot about pivots and
Oh,
iterations, right? In entrepreneurship, pivots and iterations are the name of the game. We
that's good.
understand that, again, it is a journey, it is a marathon, but there's
Mhm.
numerous obstacles kind of that you talked about in the midst of the rocks. I would love for you to give some tangible, maybe some rocks, some hurdles that you ran into, but just allowed you to continue to propel going forward, opposed to just closing down shop at that point in time.
Man, so we went we went through quite a few, man. So I'll say this. So I am type 1 diabetic. So
Okay.
I have a insulin pump that's life sustaining. So my body, it's two different types: type 1, type 2. Type 1 is juvenile diabetes,
Okay.
really where you're diagnosed early on, up until 0 to 18. And so I was diagnosed at 18 in college.
Mm,
And I was going through and I know I started to feel weird like I never felt before. And I started having all these different symptoms. And so I went to the clinic on campus. I was on campus, went to the clinic, and they checked my blood sugar, and it was unreadable.
Mm,
So the scale, the normal blood sugar is around 100, 100. The scale went up to 600.
mm,
My blood sugar was higher. It was unreadable,
Wow.
right? And so I had to go to the hospital, and consequently, they gave me insulin, and I had to get some things, some tests, and stay overnight and do all of this. And so I was went through that experience, which really shocked me because it was unfamiliar. So here I am now, 18 years old, and I'm having to have give myself shots, 4 or 5 times a day of insulin because my body doesn't produce any insulin.
mm,
Type 2 diabetes is when usually lifestyle diabetes, or you're heavier or out of shape, or not healthy lifestyle, and your body produces little insulin. But type 1, juvenile, your body produces no insulin. And so I had to externally give myself shots every single day. And so I've been doing that since 18, and I'll be 40 this year. Now, my wife and I, once we got married, I told you we had a honeymoon baby.
mm,
And so going through that, she had our baby was born premature. She was born early because my wife had a bunch of complications during her pregnancy, and she was in her 20s. Complications during her pregnancy, which was just very life shattering because after she gave birth, my wife was diagnosed with congestive heart failure
mm,
in
Mm.
her 20s, congestive heart failure. They said she would be on a pacemaker. She would have to do all of these things to be able to shock her heart if it stops or whatever. But thanks be to God, she never had to go through that type of thing. We just kind of made some changes, and God healed her. And so we were able to do that. But again, we were able to cash flow some of these setbacks because she was in the hospital for 10 days. And so insurance, yes, we had insurance, but insurance doesn't pay for everything.
yeah.
We still had
Mm-hmm.
out of pocket expenses that we had to pay out of pocket because we committed to not doing credit. We cut up our credit cards. So we cut up our credit cards because I knew I'm all or nothing type guy. I can't be halfway in, halfway out. So there's no way you can get out of debt creating new debt. And so I knew if we had a challenge, it was easier to just charge or swipe that credit card and do that. But then you're creating more debt that you have to try to extend the period in which you're going to get out. So we cut them up. And so we had to cash flow that during our time where we were going or striving to be debt free or looking to pursue debt freedom. We had, like I said, we were both in school at the time. So we had to cash flow her school. I had some tuition remission. I was working for Florida State at the time, and so they were paid for a couple of classes, and then I was able to get a grant to be able for her as a spousal support to pay for some classes. But then we had to pay, the difference.
Yeah.
Boom, we had to do that. It's like we're going to school right now. I'm trying to get out of debt, right? Then we were able to move up here. At the end of our debt period, my wife wanted to move to North Carolina. I was in Florida, or we both were in Florida, and I wasn't planning on coming back to North Carolina. But she wanted to move to North Carolina, found a job. They offered her a job. Hey, you got to come on up here. I said, we're not moving until we are debt free. And we were right there at the end. We were able to finalize our last payment in November, and we moved in December, paid for
Mm.
all the moving expenses, everything. So different obstacles that we had to endure. So it wasn't like just a smooth journey of I'm making a decision to be debt free, and now we're putting all our money towards paying off our debt. No, life happens along the way that we still
Mm-hmm.
had to flow, that we had to have margin to be able to cash flow some of these unexpected life situations.
Man, that's really good. And I think everything you just said goes back to something we talked about in the beginning. That is having a plan and having a purpose. Because
Absolutely.
if I think that's why even the question that I asked you is like, how can some people do it and others not? I think they believe that they have a plan or they believe they have a strong purpose behind why they doing it. But as soon as that adversity hits, they kind of shy away from it or they
Hmm.
stop. Um, but I got the listener in mind when I'm asking my questions, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that's struggling with debt. But for that person that may be overwhelmed, they might even be behind on a couple bills, and they probably are embarrassed, right? They don't even want to tell anybody about it. Like, what's something that they can do tomorrow, without having to talk to anybody, but they can just start doing tomorrow?
So the first thing I would say is get on a budget. That's the easiest thing people can do, but the hardest thing most people can do
Yeah.
is to get on a budget and stick to a budget. Because a budget is, like you said, it gives your money direction. It's a plan that allocate. And I believe we personally use a zero based budget, meaning that every dollar has an assignment. So we have our monthly take home pay that we put that at the top of our budget, and then we spend every dollar. Every dollar has an assignment. We have this for tithe or giving. We put this amount into saving. We put this amount that we set aside for groceries or for bills for our mortgage and so having a detailed plan is essential.
Yeah.
Is essential. A plan leads to profit just as surely as spontaneousness will lead to poorness, right? Being spontaneous is a sure way to stay poor
Yeah.
or to stay broke
Yeah.
because it's it's with anything. You can't be healthy. You can't have a six pack being spontaneous.
That's
You
real.
can't lose weight being a spontaneous eater. I can't have a good marriage being a spontaneous husband.
That's real.
Yeah, touche.
It's just facts are facts. And so when you have to have a plan, you have to have a purpose, you have to stick to a budget. The same way I have to stick to being faithful to my wife, I had to stick to being faithful to my budget.
Mm,
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 The same
mm.
way if
that's
I
good.
wanted to lose weight, I had to stick to being faithful to my diet. It's the
Hmm.
principle is the principle. And so understanding some people, you have to have that mindset that I'm sticking to the plan, I'm putting a budget together, and I'm sticking to it no matter what. A lot of times it's us. The problem isn't the budget, the problem
Yeah.
is you.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
It's not what you wrote down. And Marcus, we said something earlier, like generational curses. Most things aren't generational curses.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Most things are generational habits.
Yes.
Mama did
Yes.
it. Granddaddy did it like this. My did it like this. Like it's just a habit. You saw mama do it, so now you doing it. You saw daddy do it, so now you do it. My parents used to eat butter pecan ice cream almost every night, and I started doing that. Why? Because it's a habit.
Yeah.
It's a habit, and you're gonna get the results of certain habits. So if you can create new habits to yield new results, you can win.
Yeah.
Hmm. Consistency and discipline will win the race at the end of the day. Now you talked about consistent habits. One that I see and I know I was extremely guilty of, especially in the midst of college, was eating out consistently. Right. I know that is probably one of the biggest debt items, right, on or the expenses on a lot of people's P&L at the end of the day. So I'm curious to know. I know in the midst of us talking, you talked a little bit about prepping, right, and how vital that is for being intentional with saving and adding more funds to the budget. Can you talk a little bit about that and your journey with that, and why you would encourage others to lean into it?
The biggest line item outside in most people's budget, in my experience, outside of mortgage or rent, is food. The single biggest line item. People spend more money on food than they do on their car note every month, than they do on certain payments. I did research a while back on how much money the average family spends on eating out every month, and I think it's over. I think it's over like almost $500 the average family of four spends eating out every month.
Mm.
Most people that eat out also want to buy groceries and stuff like that. So I remember when I was, again, as I said at the beginning, when I was a single man, I had different habits than when I was a married. When I became a married man, I had to change those habits. When I was a single man, I ate out every single day, lunch, dinner, sometimes breakfast. I didn't cook a thing. I didn't cook anything. Ate out every single day.
Mm.
I mean, just not knowing where my money is going, just eating out because it's convenient. Again, it's spontaneous. It's that became the lifestyle. But when I got married and my wife and I pursued our debt-free journey, I realized quickly we were spending way too much money eating out. So we had to cut it out. So we didn't eat out anymore. Or I'll take that back. We may eat out on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? But every other day we were meal prepping. And so what I started doing, I started watching YouTube, again, YouTube University, and I learned how to grill or smoke meats on the grill. And so I did that. And I think here's a key to becoming debt free as well. And it's something I talk about in some of my lessons. One of the keys to becoming debt free is to develop an income producing habit or an income producing skill.
Yeah.
And so I learned the skill of grilling and I started doing it every day. So much so that we turned it into a business. And so I started selling grilled plates. Cummings Backyard Barbecue was my business. We
Yeah.
stayed in a townhouse in Tallahassee, Florida. We were selling barbecue plates on the weekend and using that money to help us get out of debt, to pay towards debt. And so it's a skill that I learned to start doing. People started liking it. So we were selling barbecue plates. But every Sunday, what I had started doing was I started cooking. Now, before my wife, I didn't cook a thing. But I wanted a successful marriage, and I knew I'm staying at home sometimes, so I needed to start cooking to contribute. So I started cooking. Even now, I do probably 85, 90% of the cooking in our home. And we meal prep on Sundays. I cook two big meals. Sometimes it's something grilled, smoked something, or have something on the grill. And so we started doing that to help alleviate some of the weekly expenses that we had on eating out because we started prepping big meals and we would eat on throughout the week. And then we would go out maybe on Saturday to eat, to do something, or order a pizza for the kids on a Friday or something like that. And so we just started doing that. And then consequently, we turned that into income producing hobby. We turned meal prepping into a business. And so now we have a meal prep company where we do meal prep meals that we sell to many people in our neighborhood and in the Fayetteville area every Sunday. Our meal prep company, Grill and Grace, is our meal prep company. So every Sunday we prepare meals for families, and we sell those meals that they can eat on throughout the week. So you have to order by Friday. We deliver the meals on Sunday, and then we do it every week. It renews, and so we have a team, a couple that works for us to kind of prepare the meals as well. And so we started doing that. But then we noticed that we needed containers. So now we started selling meal prep containers. We have a Amazon store where we sell meal prep containers on Amazon. So we do that when we sell the containers, the silicone bento boxes.
Yeah.
It's called Perfect Portion. Is our bento box company. So now we sell that. So again, birth out of the pursuit of debt freedom, step by step. And then we have these systems in place. Now we're creating businesses along the way, income producing hobbies. I said habits, income producing hobbies that turned into businesses to now that we can have residual income off the businesses that we have in place that started with a new hobby of meal prepping.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You really talking this talk. So let's grow together, family. I hope y'all got y'all pens out. Let's switch gears a little bit. I would love for you to talk about the Irresistible Man Conference. One, why did you choose that name? And then what's something that you hope people take away from it?
Man, this is again. I told y'all before, man, or teaching men, brothers, growing together as men is my wheelhouse. It's something I enjoy the most. So really the impetus for the Irresistible Man Conference came about really as I was teaching at church one Sunday, and I made the statement that every it's not good enough to be the average man. And so it's okay to be attractive, but it's a different thing to be irresistible.
Yeah.
And so I made it. I wanted to have a determination not to be just attractive in my marriage. I wanted an irresistible marriage.
Mhm.
I wanted to be irresistible in every area of marriage. And so I made a mission statement for me to really empowering men through Christ to become irresistible leaders in their marriages, their families, and their purpose. And that is what sparked the idea for the Irresistible Man Conference November 1st. So this conference is all about equipping men to become irresistible in their marriages, their families, and their purpose. And so I have mentors of mine who I'm bringing in to speak to three different areas. I have my money mentor who's coming in, William Thompson. He's an elder at my home church, but he's an accountant, multimillionaire. As one of my mentors, I love to eat lunch with and do, and it's really taught me so much. He's speaking on irresistible money.
Mm.
Then I have another mentor who's coming in to Dr. Whitaker out of Greensboro, and he's a relationship coach, he and his wife, and he's speaking on irresistible marriage. His relationship coaching practice specializes in sexual integrity. And so I believe that can really impact most men, especially today. And then I have another mentor, Dr. Newsom, who's here in Fayetteville. He's a psychotherapist, counselor as well, uh, many other titles, but he's speaking on irresistible mental health. And so, three focal areas that I feel that most men need assistance with, including myself, is money, marriage, and mental health.
Hmm. Well, that's spot on. I'm beyond ecstatic for it. I know it's local out here, so I will definitely be in the building. Hopefully, facilitate MCing, putting the work
Absolutely.
in some form of
Absolutely.
fashion, man. So, again, definitely be on the lookout for that. I know we'll have some flyers dropping here soon, so you all can definitely stay tapped in with that. But as we get ready to pivot to our growth segment, man, definitely excited to kind of pick your brain on that, James. What do you have for us for the growth segment, brother?
All right, so our guy Fab Christino, man, he said, "What you aren't changing, you're choosing," and I think that's right
Mm,
on brand with our conversation today. So Larry, would love to come to you, and how does that resonate, or what thoughts come to you?
mm. Sometimes I tell some of the especially younger guys that I'm mentioning or mentoring in high school, middle school, and I always say this thought: if you can't change your friends, change your friends. And so sometimes I know I may ran into that mistake where I'm trying to change people. I
Mm-hmm.
want them. I'm enlightened. I'm doing new things, so I'm trying to change you. But you can't change anybody else. I can only change myself. I can only change my mind. I can only change my decisions. So I tell them, if you can't change your friends, change your friends. And so for us, for me, it's like you have to make a conscious decision to put yourself in new spaces, in new places, in new environments that are conducive to the man, to the woman that you desire to become. Because if where I am is not meeting my need, it becomes a weight. It becomes a barrier. And it becomes something that's heavy.
Yeah.
And being for me at the time, being in debt was a weight. And so I had to make a change, a conscious decision to make a change. And that change first starts in the mind, in the mind.
Mm, mm,
Hmm.
mm, mm.
I got a quick follow up to that because that is so spot on with what I just heard. I was told oftentimes we reflect on the past and get depressed. We focus on the future, then we get anxiety. But we need to be
Wow.
focused on the present that is the presence, right? Because that's where real change and impact comes. So
Mm,
everything you just talked about, man,
good.
was so spot on, right? We can reflect, we can be empowered, we can be sad about what it was, but we have to be 10 toes down for the current present to be able to
Yes.
manifest what we desire, right? So that's spot on, man. But what do you have for us for the growth segment, man, to leave our next guest with to empower them as well?
I'm gonna say this, and I'll leave with this: we cannot give up because of mistakes, because of bad decisions. I mean, I wish I would have started investing earlier. I started creating new habits earlier on. And for most of us, we allow that missed opportunity to linger and stop us from even starting, new. So I don't want anyone to stop or to not have a failure to start because of past mistakes. And I truly believe that every failure brings with it a seed of success. And that's the quote I leave with you. Every failure brings with it a seed of success. How will you use that seed? And what fruit will that seed produce?
Mm,
Hmm.
mm, mm, mm.
You gotta water it. You gotta water it, man. Well, thank you sincerely, brother Cummings, for taking some time to join us, tap in with us today. I'm curious to know for our listeners that want to tap in with you, maybe they want to get a little bit more information about the upcoming conferences or engagements you have. Where can they find you? How can they tap in with you?
So you can find me on different social media platforms or my website, gracefulsteward.com. Gracefulsteward.com is my website. That's the name on Instagram. On Facebook is Larry Tyke Cummings as well. So you can certainly find me there. But to go to gracefulsteward.com to my website, tap in, shoot me an email, offer complimentary um, coaching consultations as well. And so I love to work with people to coach, to better help and equip you with your finances. And so I'm not yet a financial advisor, I'm a financial coach. So if financial advisors deal with the behaviors of money, financial coaches deal with the behaviors of people around their money. And so I really love working with people, empowering and equipping people to be successful in life, family, and their money.
Mm, 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 mm. Well, brother Larry from the Let's Grow Together family, man, we truly appreciate you coming through, dropping all these gems. I said it before. I know our listeners gonna get some value. So again, appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. Man, thank y'all so much. This has been fantastic.
Man, for sure, for sure. Marcus, you got anything for us?
Nah, for sure, man. We're gonna continue to build. You local in the city. This is one of our phenomenal board members who's gonna be just making extreme impact throughout the city. So I'm beyond ecstatic for us to cross paths, man. And again, black man to black man, bro. Keep doing God's work, brother. I love to see it each and every time. So flowers to you sincerely.
For sure.
Yes, sir. God bless y'all, man.
All right, likewise,
Alrighty.
brother. All right, peace
Until
out. Let's
next
grow
time,
together,
family.
family.
Trying to find me a balance in life. Why I'm still trying to gamble with life. Wanna be great, it gotta come with a price. Gotta watch what you ask for. I strive for these moments in life. I'm still learning and giving advice. I try carrying the weight of the world. See, I saw when I was losing myself. I had to catch my breath. Nobody got you like you got yourself. So it's important for you to know who you are. Cause in the dark, you gotta fight with your heart. Even if your heart broken apart. But they still gon' judge me. So tell me how that's been here for me. I had to see that everybody didn't love me. Like everybody ain't for me. I took chances just to see for myself. Cause for the longest I've been hurting myself. Trying to blame someone else. I stand on it, don't regret what I did. Cause I can live that my intentions were real. My heart just needed to heal. Gotta get back to loving myself and trusting myself and better my health. Nobody loves you like you loving yourself. You gotta know who you are. Gotta get back to loving myself and trusting myself and better my health. Nobody loves you like you loving yourself.